There are so many videos out there about girls and how to identify autism in girls, how to identify autism in women. And so I've been teaching kids for the past 14 years, and I can tell you how I can see that. Okay, so there is this very, very interesting age around 7 to 8, at least that's from my experience, that's what I see, when girls start to change. Before that, they are more kind of free, easygoing, like they don't care about the opinion of other people. But when they are around 7, and this kind of coincides with school start, but at the same time, the school also starts based on the brain development. So it's not just random, it's kind of rooted in like development of the brain. And I can see how girls change between these ages, like 7 and 8. I am very lucky because I can see groups of kids of different ages. You know, usual teachers and researchers even, they rarely can see kids of different ages interact. So they would have a class of same age kids in school, for example. But in my case, I have groups of different ages because they are kind of grouped by their English language skills, not by their age. And so now I can see some girls around 7 and 8 years old, they start looking around and they usually look at older girls. And then I can see that they observe their behavior and then they start copying the older girls. And so they sometimes copy their fashion, sometimes they copy their way of speaking, sometimes they copy their behavior. And I see this in girls with more autistic traits. So I don't see it in ADHD, how to say, in people who I think might have ADHD. I'm not a doctor, I can't diagnose anybody, but knowing a lot and experiencing a lot firsthand, I can kind of tell the differences, right? And so when I see girls with ADHD traits, number one, it's not very common. So most girls, I would say, present with more ADD, so attention deficit. So they just struggle to pay attention and they are not very hyper. But let's say in hyper, they don't do that. I have a student who just doesn't care. She's, I think, 9 or 8 years old, so already past that age. No, she doesn't care. She's like, I want to go under the chair. I will go under the chair. I want to run around. I will run around. So they don't really care. And this is very typical of boys too. The boys don't do that. But the girls, especially with the autistic traits, they are more like internal focused and they start looking around. And that's, I think, when the masking starts. And so I know that many of us, we do it unconsciously because, you know, at 7 years old, you can't be like conscious about it. Oh, I will look around and I will choose the best, you know, course of behavior. No, it doesn't work like that. And so I think I'm kind of sad because, you know, the girls, they will not realize that they might have autistic traits until much later in life, right? Because they mask so well, nobody will suspect that. But, you know, I can see it at this age, and especially later in life. I don't think they will show anything. Like, I have one student who is now 10 years old, and her brother also has some autistic traits. So, like, I wouldn't say he started speaking late, his behavior and everything is kind of what you would call shy, but it's not shyness. You see, it's different. And so, you know, it's very genetically connected. And so this older girl, she is not, like, you can't tell her, like, nothing out of ordinary. Yes, she's a bit quiet. Yes, she doesn't communicate as well. So, for example, yesterday we were playing a game, Jenga. Do you know Jenga? Like, you have to pull out the blocks. And it was somebody else's turn. So instead of like telling that person, she just walked to that person, like tapped her on the shoulder and like go, like it's your turn. So usually people would be like, hey, it's your turn, go. No, she doesn't do that. So of course this is like one of examples. I can see many others, so like don't judge me just based on that one. But that's one of those things that I can see. She looks perfectly normal. Yes, a bit quiet. Yes, a bit different communicator, but, you know, like that. And so I think if you want to discover yourself, if you were born a female, if you were a girl, then you might go back in time into that age of like 6 and maybe 8, and find what changed in you. But at the same time, I don't think masking is bad. I think masking is our ability to fit into social groups. So I wouldn't say that, oh, masking is always bad, like let's take off the masks and be ourselves. I don't know. I think we need that kind of skill and use it consciously. And this is taking back the power, because if you can use a certain skill, or you can choose not to use a certain skill, then you have the power, then you have the control. Like, oh, today I will mask, or tomorrow I will not mask. It's up to you. You have the freedom, you have the ability to choose. And I think that's our power.